everybody, this is Sherry, and I'm going to use the Hello Lovely stamp set from Concord and 9th today to make a You're in My Prayers card. That is the stamp set right there, and I'm using my Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp it on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of cardstock. That is Copic Express It. And I'm just trying to wiggle it around because I don't want them to overlap, but I want them to be very close. So I'm working it out there, figuring out where I need it, and now re-inking the stamp so that I can stamp it back on. And you'll notice that I went over onto the orange and the matte there. I took my wipey and it just, boom, wiped it off and it's gone. You can't even tell that I got ink on there, which is like so cool. And I was reminded by a very, very sweet lady that there are no mistakes in paper crafting. So what I should have called this video is there's no mistakes in paper crafting, but lots of ways to creatively cover things. Because again, guys, honest to goodness, I don't know where my head was. And with this one, I just did my YR00, then my triple and my quadruple, and then I go over everything with my colorless blender on this card because I want it to be very pale, very soft. I'm using it as a card for a lady who lost her husband, and so I just want it to be elegant and comforting looking, if that makes any sense. So I'm going over all of those little flowers with my Y00, 000, and quadruple 0. As you can see, I'm choosing really soft colors, really low on the number system, so that you would even, use the colorless blender to blend them out and get rid of some of the color if you wanted to. It would be an easy thing to do when you use colors that light. And just finishing up the last of the little yellow flowers. And I will be moving on to the leaves. Now, here we go again. Now, the good thing about Copics is they are transparent, which means if you go over them with something darker, it layers on top, and you can layer on top as many times as you want. So you will see that I layer on top here 3 times. This would be the second one. And I switched from the YGs to the G20, 21, 24 because the first one I thought was too yellow and I lost the yellow flowers. So I'm doing it again, and I move on to the next greens. Or no, I'm finishing up the last of these with the G24, 21, and 20. And this one just comes out and I just feel like it's too bright, and I don't want it to be bright. So you'll see here in a little bit that I go back over it a 3rd time. I couldn't help myself. I knew what I was wanting. I felt like what the 3 bears, this one's too bright and this one's too light and this one's just right. So, you'll see here in a minute that I go over it again. And I always do my darkest, my medium color, and then my light. And I am not putting down a base color because, like I said, I wanted these to be very soft. And this Express It paper, it's expensive, but when you put it down, you only seem to need to put 1 coat of the color you choose. So that's something to think about if you're wanting to invest in. Here's the 3rd time. YG63, 20, G24, and 21. And this one, like I said, after I go over it with my colorless blender, makes it just right. Oh my golly, guys. I could have done this card 4 times over in the amount of time that I go and I change things and redo. And everything blended and appeared to be very cohesive. The only problem I had with adding all these different colors and trying to do the second flower was the little tiny flowers there that I'm going to color here in a minute with V01, 000, and quadruple 0. I decided that I didn't like that purple, that I liked it on the flower that's to the left of the big peach one, but not on those little ones. So I go over it again and I use BG 13, 11, and 10. And I'm like, okay, well, I go over it. I like the way it looks. And then I get ready to do them on the other flower. And they did not look the same at all. You couldn't tell with the leaves. You couldn't tell, with anything else. But for some reason, that little flower, those two little flowers just really, stood out like a sore thumb. So I had to go and do violet over top and then go back and do the BGs over top of that to get it all to blend and work well together. Now you're going to see here at the end of this that the pictures I use or I have up do not match what you're going to see me finish. And that would be because I creatively covered up the non-mistake I made. and what it is I stamped it with silver embossing powder, and it says prayers, but it's a very tiny script, and so the silver was just too hard to see. So I tried to go over it again with some black, but what it did was it just kind of spread the black to the sides. It didn't keep any of it in the center. So here I go. I'm going to go over them again. This one I get on the second try, so that I'm getting better. And so I tried doing that for the sentiment. I tried using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It wouldn't stick to the embossing powder, of course. And then I go and use my VersaFine Onyx Black to stamp the "You Are in My" for the prayers portion. And apparently did not realize that it was not dry, and I smudged it. And I go all over the entire card here around all of the flowers with the BG 000 and then the colorless blender. I would have used the 000, but I can't find that marker anywhere. Every time I go to get it, it's gone. So I had to use what I had, and that was that. So it worked out all right. And so I end up messing up the entire sentiment. And even when I get ready to do my card, now I'm cutting my card base down to, or the first layer down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I want it to completely cover the card base. So then I cut this one down to 4 by 5. And then I decide, nah, don't like that. So I start over again, and I take the peach layer and I cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, and then I cut the floral layer down to 3 3/4 by 5, and finally can call it done and think I like it. And I had tried to stamp this before, and so I had some leftover flowers, and so what I did was I colored them in and decided that I would just use some foam tape to pop them up on top of this layer. Well, one, I should have stamped the sentiment before I popped the flowers up, and which of course I didn't. But so I had to kind of do some finagling and lifting and trying to pull things up. Anytime you want to put any dimension on your card, always stamp your sentiment first. Don't do as I do, do as I say kind of thing, because it was a pain in the booty to try to lift that flower up after I'd gotten all that tape on it. And I should have, looking back and thinking, I wish I had I ended up putting a peach strip of paper that matches the bottom layer. I end up putting it across the top, the floral layer, to cover up, where I messed up. But I wish I had put it all the way across. I don't know why I didn't. I just get it to that one flower right there on the right, and I stop. And I mean, it still looks all right and everything, and nobody but me and all of you guys know that I, blew it. But it's just, I just wish I had, put it all the way across. But I refuse to take it apart again, I'm like, nope, third strike, you're out kind of thing. If I can't get it by then, I don't need to be doing it. So here I am. I'm getting ready to stamp the sentiment. And you can see the word prayers is so tiny. And I get ready to put the silver on, and it's sticking everywhere because I forgot to put down my powder. And I'm trying to wipe it off here a little bit, and it's just nothing's helping. So I wipe it off by hand, and I get ready, and I start a second time. And this time I put down the powder, and I'm using some old Stampin' Up! Illuminations ink. And it's really cool on dark colors, but it's also just like a Versamark. It just leaves a little bit of a shine. And so I don't know why I picked that yesterday, but it did. And you can see, I mean, it would have been fine. I could have probably went around the edge with a black Copic pen, and it would have been fine. But no. I got to try to do it differently. And, it's one of these days I'm going to learn to just leave things well enough alone. And you'll see the papers that I'm using there to dump my embossing powder on. I'm trying to learn how to watercolor. And well, that one right there, the red, I was trying to work with the Tim Holtz Distress Inks, but on a poppy stamp. But I'm getting better, and when I do, I will show you guys some of the things I've been working on and trying to learn how to do. And at the end of this, you'll see the card showing you everything that I fixed, and there I am stamping the "You Are in My," and I stamp it a couple times because it's not dark enough. And if I just let it dry, guys, if only I had let it dry. And so there it is, and it looked fine till I smudged it up. And so see, you can see the piece of peach paper. I just wish I had put it all the way across. If I had done that, I think I would have been much happier. Alright guys, thanks for visiting me today. I hope you liked this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Happy crafting! Bye!